Hi everyone. Today I want to share with everyone about cognitive abilities. So cognitive ability is a more proper way to say it, but in simpler terms, cognitive is whether our brains are functioning properly. Our cognitive ability comes from our brain. And today, let us learn about cognitive impairment. Before we begin, I would like to show everyone this picture. I believe many of our Chinese Mandarin-speaking friends would be familiar with this movie. This movie is Money No Enough, which is directed by a Singaporean. And in this scene, the mom might have the Alzheimer's disease. And when her son came home, she kept asking him if he ate. And basically in this scene, she asked about 10 times. And this scene was hilarious. And I believe those who watched it will know. Okay, what I want to point out is this movie was very funny when we watched it when we were younger. But as we grow older, the elders around us really started getting old. And the scene in the movie happened in our lives because your grandmas would repeatedly ask you the same questions or keep telling you the same thing. And as they keep repeating themselves, you might find it frustrating too. But to them, it's really because they've forgotten that they've already said what they said. So today, we'll be learning about what cognitive impairment is and what Alzheimer's is. And after having a better understanding of these problems, perhaps we could be more considerate and have more patience to the elderlies. A lot of times when we encounter elderly's continuous repetition, we might get frustrated, and that is understandable. But once you have a better understanding of this matter, you will be more tolerant with it as you are able to understand why this had come to be. Here comes today's first question, which is cognitive decline. Which is cognitive decline, Alzheimer's. What are the differences? Many might be familiar with the term Alzheimer's, but do you really know what it is? Let us have a look. So basically, cognitive impairment or mild cognitive impairment can be differentiated into various stages. In the early stage, when our cognitive decline, this is considered a milder situation. Of course, as humans get older, our memory would become worse. We would often be unable to recall things. And if you're degenerating normally, it's not a big problem if you forget things once in a while, as long as it doesn't affect your daily routine, it is considered healthy degeneration. So as for mild cognitive impairment, besides being more forgetful, it might also be hard for them to make decisions. If it isn't an important or big decision to be made, or maybe they will get lost in directions at place where they are familiar with and suddenly don't know the way back home. Their judgment ability will worsen and they might easily lose train of thoughts. For instance, he might forget what he was thinking about and halfway through his thoughts. So this is the first stage, which is mild cognitive impairment. And from here, we should start being more aware. Moving on, we have what is known as dementia. And this is more severe as compared to mild cognitive impairment. As for dementia, besides having memory loss, their communication and language would also change. And maybe they might not be able to express themselves like before. So they would also be unable to focus, pay attention, and judge. Their vision would also weaken too. And with these symptoms, you can conclude that you're diagnosed with dementia, and it will start affecting one's lifestyle and affects them a little in a way that they won't be able to live independently. And the next one is Alzheimer's disease. There are actually many terms for this in Mandarin, but in English, Alzheimer's is a familiar term that we would all know upon hearing it. And for this, of course, they will have memory loss. Everyone knows that this is a really familiar symptom for Alzheimer's. And when the condition is severe, those with Alzheimer's might be unable to converse properly and to remember new messages. They can only take note of what happened in the past, and they would also forget immediately as to what just happened. And they get easily confused and disoriented as they don't know what's going on. And some might even have mood and behavior changes. Perhaps back then they are very happy and easygoing, but after getting Alzheimer's, they became very moody. And back when I interned in a hospital, this doctor shared a story about this patient he encountered. There was a couple, and one day this old man took a knife and wanted to stab his wife to death, or he would be sitting at the balcony and throwing rocks at people. So these are things he would never do back then. And how could you do such dangerous things to your loved ones? And this is because he had Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's would affect one's personality and emotions. Like for severe conditions, they might even have self-care deficit, such as having issues in swallowing, walking, and using the bathroom. After listening to all these, we know that mild cognitive impairment, dementia, and Alzheimer's have to do with our brain degenerating, especially with our nerves. Because when our nerve system started having problems and when it starts degenerating, we'll be unable to control ourselves. And this is the different cognitive impairment. A lot of times, scholars would also categorize Alzheimer's and dementia as one type, because there are actually many, many types, and they have different stages. Okay, the next question. We know that cognitive impairment and mild cognitive impairment are very difficult to live with. So how do we reduce the risk of cognitive declination? For elderlies who already have this problem, there's no way to reverse it, but maybe through some good care, they might be able to delay it and perhaps even improve. So when we're young, we should understand how to reduce the risk of cognitive decline. And there's a Finnish study that aims at the elderlies who had a bit of mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's. So there's around 1,260 elderlies in the studies, and they realized that there are 5 factors that can help to improve the elderly's cognitive abilities. This includes giving them some physical activities, cognitive training, and let them socialize. So others include giving them nutrition intervention. Nutrition intervention means to make some changes on their diet, have them intake specific nutrients, and the management of heart health risk factors. So what do they include? Well, for instance, anything that has to do with your heart health, like your blood lipids, cholesterol, blood pressure, etc. All these are risk factors for the health of our hearts. So the study found that if these things are achieved, even if they already have some cognitive impairment or cognitive decline, there are improvements in helping their cognition. And this also implies that many studies have found our heart health risk factors to be closely related with cognitive impairment and mild cognitive impairment. So our brain actually contains many blood vessels. So this is the first thing that everyone should know. And nutrients is also another thing we should do well in advance. And with that, we can delay their recession. And as for social activities, families should interact more with elderlies at home. And this is something that we can do. So many might be like, oh, the elderlies don't even know what they're doing themselves, so I don't feel like talking to them. But this is not right. We should talk more with the elderlies, as this is helpful for their self-interpretation. for their self-expression and their ability to speak. And as we are talking about nutrition, today I want to introduce to everyone about the dietary intake that we can do for the health of our brain and cognition. And in diet therapy, we have a dietary method known as the MIND diet. And the MIND diet recommends our dietary intake to be filled with certain foods and to restrict from certain foods. And its recommendations is similar to a heart-healthy diet, but there are some slight differences. So what should we eat? Well, we need to eat green leafy veggies every day. And besides leafy veggies, we should eat other vegetables such as rhizomes or those in red, yellow, and white colored veggies as well. And these are recommended to eat at least one serving a day, which means that we need to eat many green leafy veggies and a serving of other veggies every day. So we should also eat nuts daily, and we can have them perhaps for afternoon tea or a small snack in between meals. Over here, it highlighted that we should eat berries, not fruits, okay, but berries. We should eat at least twice a week, and all berries are fine, whether if it's strawberries, blueberries, or other combinations of berries. Then there's also whole grains, where we should eat at least 3 servings a day. So how much is 3 servings? Actually, if you eat brown rice, 1 middle-sized bowl of brown rice already contains 3 servings. And as for fish, we should eat at least once a week. As for poultry meat like chicken, we should eat twice a week. And as for olive oil, we can consume them every day. Or like maybe when you're cooking, you can add olive oil. So what are the restrictions? Red meat. What are red meat? Well, like beef, pork, these are red meat that we should eat less. And the intake of butter, margarine, and other artificial butter should not surpass 1 spoonful. And as for cheese, it is recommended to only consume at most 1 serving a week. Only 1 serving of cheese, which is 1 to 2 slices of cheese. And as for desserts like the pastries and bakeries, we should try to consume less sweet food, as well as fried foods and fast foods. It is recommended to not eat more than a serving per week. For instance, if you want to eat fried chicken, you should only eat them for 1 meal. And these are the findings of the MIND diet that is effective as compared to other diets in helping the health of cognitive abilities. And among all the foods, a few have been certified by studies that is very good for our cognitive health and to prevent Alzheimer's. And the first group is what we mentioned earlier, which is berries. And not just any fruits, because studies found that other fruits are unable to obtain what blueberries, strawberries, and other berries could do, which is to reduce the loss of neurons and to improve our memory performance. So these effects can only be found in berries, and only this type of fruits is able to. This is why the diet emphasizes on berries and not other fruits.
Secondly, we have pomegranate juice. Studies found that drinking 1 cup of pomegranate juice every day can improve visual learning. We have found that many methods of learning, right, like visual, auditory, or like kinesthetic learning. So like these methods are all able to help. And also like studies also found that by giving elderlies their when they're elderlies in their 60s, so we have to give them a cup of pomegranate juice every single day, and so it can actually improve their learning ability, and also like they are able to retain their learnings, the things that they have learned even longer. So why this is so? It is because everyone knows that in the fruit, pomegranate contains high antioxidant substances. So like it can prevent damages and also oxidation and also inflammation So actually, why our brain would degenerate, it is because it has something to do with inflammation in our brain. So antioxidants, substances are actually mainly to protect our cells from oxidative damages and also to reduce inflammation. The third group is seafood and also fishes. So a lot of studies also shows that seafood and also fishes can also reduce the risk of depression and also reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's diseases. So approximately, those who eat more of these will have lower risk of Alzheimer's. This might be because due to the DHA and also omega-3 that they contains, it is recommended to consume at least 1 serving per week. Of course, it's not just salmon. You can also eat tuna, sardines, oysters, mussels, and all of these, they all attain the same effect. So the fourth group is nuts. And also the effects of nuts on our cognition, it may extend beyond walnuts. So a study in China found out that elderlies, which is around 55 years old and above, and if they eat an average of at least 10 grams of nuts every single day, like peanuts, then they can actually increase their global cognition scores, and also this is measured through the telephone interviews, which evaluates our thinking, our reasoning, and also our memory. And also in a US study, they also found out that those who eat walnuts shows lower depression scores. And so the last group is soy. So what is soy? It's like soy milk, tofu, edamame, and all of these are like soy. And so a study conducted in Taiwan, it found out that if in 1 week they eat at least these soy products, then there's actually 43% less likely to be cognitively impaired, which also includes Alzheimer's. So those who constantly or daily consume soy, then they found out that there's a 55% less chance that they're going to be cognitively impaired. So this implies that this is a food that's good for our brain. And why this is so is because there's a lot of antioxidants within this soy products. So that's why it can prevent inflammation, also other similar problems. So moving on, so we talked about antioxidants like omega. So what about minerals? So what happens with minerals? And actually a lot of studies found that minerals is very important for our nervous system. So you already know that if you hear my sharing or talk previously, among all of these minerals like potassium, calcium, and magnesium, they're all recognized to be very effectively to prevent mild cognitive impairment. So over here, there's a study that was conducted in Japan, and they realized that potassium, calcium, and magnesium are all protective against cognitive decline. And so it's really good factors and also components to help decrease. And also, this study also mentioned that there's a lot of times where you consume 1 micronutrient or mineral at a time, then the effects aren't as effective. Usually we need to pair it all up for a better effect. And so now we have come to the last question. So how can we call Kinta help to maintain the health of our nervous system? So how does it help? And so and previously we didn't include Kinta mineral, right? So now let's take a look. So first off, we need to know why it helps our nervous system. And to understand, we need to understand what it provides. So there are actually 78 different types of trace minerals in Kinta mineral, and these trace minerals, their concentration levels is higher. And so actually these trace minerals and also minerals, they have different forms. And so for this form, they're considered as crystalloid forms, which means that they're really small and also fine in size. So that's why when we consume it, it's easier to be absorbed. So where do we find these minerals? Do we mix it up randomly? Actually, that's not. True. So actually in the sea, there are vortexes, and like in these parts of seas, there'll be continuous whirlpools. Like it'll keep on spinning and spinning. And that's where this seawater is extracted from. So why does it have to be from those vortex? This is because there are many, many nutrients gathered over there. And there's also a lot of planktons. So when the plankton metabolizes, they'll secrete these metabolites, and that's why it'll break down into fine and also trace minerals. And also because they're extracted straight from the sea vortexes, they didn't undergo any processing, and that's why they're able to help ensure that this product is hygienic. And also through the processes, we are able to help ensure that this is actually safe to consume. However, there isn't any like special changes or special like restructuring of these trace minerals. So it's actually quite natural. And so besides having the 78 different trace minerals, they also consume vitamin B's, vitamin K's, and also some fat, and also some water-soluble nutrients. And also there's also a small amount of omega that can be found within this Kington mineral ampule. And so basically it's considered as a combination of all of these different nutrients and also minerals. But what makes it unique is that it contains really high concentration of trace minerals. So to sum it up, Kington mineral contains 78 different trace minerals, and so it can really quickly transmit these trace minerals into our cells. And why this is so is because it is made out of this crystalloid form, and that's why it's really tiny, and that's why it can go through our body super quickly. And also it's all natural. And so it also has gone through frozen sterilization because due to this pharmaceutical facility environment. So what is frozen sterilization? Well, it filters and doesn't go through any chemical process to change the nutritional components. And so after we have a better understanding of Kington minerals, so let's take a look at why it can help with our nervous system. Actually, why we need our body to take these trace minerals is because after our body absorbs these trace minerals, it goes into our blood and they become electrolytes. So as long as the minerals go into our body, they all become electrolytes. So electrolytes actually needs a balance within our body. And so it needs to be balanced. So that's why it's able to support our nervous system to function properly. If these electrolytes is imbalanced, they will affect the functions of our nervous system. And then it will also affect your brain cognitive response and even on how you're able to control your body. So what did this include? It includes this muscle contraction. So if our electrolytes is imbalanced, we might have cramps, and since these electrolytes are in water are closely related, our hydration level will also be imbalanced when our electrolytes are imbalanced. And that is why we need to balance out our electrolytes and also water levels in order to maintain our body's hydration. And last but not least, these electrolytes also which is also known as trace minerals and also minerals, it needs to also help, we need it so that it can help maintain our body's pH balance. So everybody knows what pH is, right? So that's why we need to maintain a balanced electrolytes and also take enough minerals. And also many studies found out that if you have imbalanced internal environment, which is when your body's electrolytes and also hydration are imbalanced, then it will affect you many, many ways. And so this includes our very first, which is our cognitive performance. So cognitive performance includes our memory. And so those who are dehydrated, lack minerals, they might have short-term memory problems or some obstruction in their visual sense, or also their perception. So their eyesight is not that good. And so they might even affect their emotions. So for athletes, it might also affect their physical performance. Actually, so like really young children who don't drink water, it'll affect their physical health and also physical performance. And also elderlies, if they get hydrated easily, they don't get, because they don't really get thirsty, and because their nervous system doesn't really work, and that's why they don't get the message that I am thirsty, and that's why they wouldn't think about drinking water. And also their food intake isn't as ideal as we wish it to, and that's why elderlies will have a higher risk of lacking minerals and also hydration. And also kids who are hyperactive, they don't drink water, and also their emotions might go up and down, and also even lead to diseases. And that's why maintaining a balanced internal environment will directly affect the functions of our nervous system, and also affect the other factors that I've mentioned earlier, right? Which are cognitive performance, physical performance, emotions, and also getting certain diseases. And all of these have to do with our nervous system. So it's really important. And we have mentioned earlier that the 78 different types of trace minerals that is found within Kingdom Mineral, it is contained in higher concentrations. They're a bit higher as compared to the minerals within our cells. In normal circumstances, our cells, they will have the ability to filter in the minerals that they could need and also need to absorb. And then, but for the unhealthy cells, they might be unable to have a proper intake. So people who are like elderlies, or like who have cells that are not working as well, and also who has a little bit more damage, then having a higher concentration, then they're able to consume and also absorb the minerals. And also if you have improper and also proper in your cells, then it's already abnormal, and that's why you need to have more and also a higher concentration. So Kingdom Mineral has a higher concentration, and in a scientific point of view, our cells are actually wrapped by cell membranes. So a layer, which is called cell membranes, and so is a semi-permeable surface layer, where it also means that during this situation, there are water on both sides, and a side with a higher concentration of minerals will penetrate it deeper. And so can everyone understand? So you can imagine, because if there's a layer of a cell membrane, and between the cell membrane there is water, and so if the concentration is higher, then it was able to surpass it through. And that is why this is really, really important to consume Kingdom Mineral, and also the effects of why it has a higher concentration. Kingdom Mineral doesn't solve or doesn't cure Alzheimer's. However, in everyone's daily lives, we don't really need to go to solve these problems when we encounter the problem. So we need to have prevention, because like always, prevention is cure. Prevention is key. It's better than cure. And so like people who have higher stress and people who have more headaches, and so you guys should already start consuming Kingdom Minerals, and also elderlies, because their brain is already like, your functions is already like backwards, and also it's not as good as before, and also they're able to absorb these nutrients as much, and also they don't really drink water, and also when they absorb less, and that is why this high concentrated Kingdom Mineral is able to help elderlies as well. And also because for athletes, they run out of minerals as quickly as well, because they keep on doing physical performance, right? And that's why they will have an imbalanced internal environment. So replenishing on a higher dosage of trace minerals after exercising will actually help the body in recovery and also in performance. And actually for kids, they don't really need Kingdom Mineral, because unless they have some special conditions, so if they they can consume Kingdom Mineral, but under normal circumstances, they can consume Kingdom Isotonic, which is more than enough for kids. So this is just a daily supplementary that we can boost for our bodies. And so I hope that everyone is able to learn and also benefit from my sharing, and also you guys are able to be more considerate, and also give them more patience with the elderlies around you, and also give them more love and communicate with them more. So that is the end of today's topic, and thank you. Bye-bye.